welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for October the 22nd of 2019. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to keep you in the know about everything happening in the gaming industry. If you enjoy the show, subscribe on YouTube, find it on a podcast service of your choosing, and keep yourself up to date every single weekday. But with that being said, what are we going to be talking about today? Batman Arkham Legacy. Apparently that could be the title for the brand new Batman game that has been teased by Warner Brothers Montreal, if a leaker on Twitter is to be believed. And he's a pretty prominent leaker in the leaking community. Somebody call a plumber. I went there, baby. Let's go. Then, Diablo 4 has been outed in an ad for a Diablo art book, which is to be revealed at BlizzCon. The Witcher 3's Switchboard has been doing very well, but on top of that, another Nintendo product also hitting the charts above The Witcher 3. Interesting to see. Then Days Gone's developer seems to be working on a brand new game, and we have more stories to talk about even after that, so there's plenty to break down on today's show. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's top gaming news. First off, Batman Arkham Legacy is the next Batman game according to a prominent leaker. It will reportedly let you play as the whole Batman family. The next Batman game will be called Batman Arkham Legacy if a previously reliable leaker is correct. Twitter user @new_wabi-sabi, who predicted a swath of E3 2019 rumors and has reportedly been threatened with legal action by Nintendo for their leaks, tweeted the details earlier today. Well, you could hardly call them details, but at least two interesting rumors can be gleaned from the leaker. The game will be called Batman Arkham Legacy, and some or all of the Batman family will be playable. It makes sense. An ensemble of heroes, all with different abilities, upgrade trees, and costumes, is very much the zeitgeist at the moment. And of course, the tweets reflect the exact same info, which you can find again at @new_wabi-sabi. Warner Brothers Games Montreal dropped a series of teases for a new Batman game in September, which led many to believe that a reveal was imminent. The most likely setting for that reveal, Sony's September State of Play, came and went with not a caped hero in sight. The studio has been perfectly silent since then, which is strange because the activity seemed to suggest a reveal would come in days, not months. There is no question that a Batman game is in development, but when exactly we will see it is still a damn good question, says Sean Prescott over at PC Gamer. So the big question on everybody's mind, is this legit? Are we going to be getting Batman Arkham Legacy as the next Batman game? I have no definitive yes or no on that. Of course, I'm not an industry insider. I just commentate on what I see in the news. But with that being said, it does all add up because of the kind of series of events that have led up to where we are today in the Batman Arkham franchise. So if you think about Batman Arkham Asylum, that laid a foundation of solid gameplay. It had beautiful environments. It was really the cream of the crop when it comes to superhero games for its time. Then Arkham City busted out of the asylum, so to speak, and opened up the entire open world of the city itself. Then, on top of that, you had Arkham Knight, which made that map even bigger. It added the Batmobile, tons of new environments and ways to explore, new gadgets, etc. It really did bring the entire game into its own and create the first true Batman experience that I think really did simulate what it would be like to have an open-world Batman game, because it was an open-world Batman game with a good story at that. On top of that, where do we go from here? Because at that point, you've kind of hit a glass ceiling because the world is huge, the equipment is exhaustive, the story has been told. Where do you go with the next steps? And I think to be able to break it out and have the entire Batman family playable does make sense because that opens up a variety of new gameplay options. It keeps things fresh, perhaps even branching storylines where you could have all of these various characters coming together at the end in some kind of way, shape, or form. Or even you could have a different perspective for the story from each individual character. That could be cool as well. There's a lot that can be done whenever you have multiple characters that really do change up the way that people see the game itself, which makes things very, very exciting. But again, nothing confirmed as of right now, nothing more than a prominent leaker on Twitter putting out a couple of cryptic tweets. But with that being said, I would say you are going to be seeing a reveal for this within the coming weeks. I couldn't imagine them holding out too much, but it very well could be E3 of next year. Who really knows? If it is going to be revealed at E3 of next year, I would say this is going to be a next generation title, and I'm not entirely sure that it would be cross-gen, because if you do reveal at E3 2019, everybody's focus is going to be on on Project Scarlet and PlayStation 5. So when you take that into consideration, is it worth putting out the game on the PS4 and the Xbox One when the next generation is on the horizon? Or could you be a cross-gen game and put it out on both? Again, these are all questions that will be answered in the coming weeks, but nonetheless, I'm very excited to see what is next for the Batman franchise because, man, some of the best superhero games ever created. I would go so far as to say potentially the best ever created. Spider-Man, it's up there, though. Spider-Man's very much so up there. However, Diablo 4 has been outed in an ad for a Diablo art book. Blizzard's new Diablo book will ship the day after BlizzCon 2019. Players have been itching for Diablo 4 news since Blizzard's disastrous reveal of its mobile title Diablo Immortal last year. With BlizzCon 2019 only a few weeks away, Diablo 4 had its first credible leak through the German magazine GameStar. In an ad in the latest GameStar issue, the upcoming Art of Diablo book references Diablo 4 for the first time. The ad reads a whole bunch of stuff in German that I'm not going to try and say, but it roughly translates to over 500 artworks from Diablo, Diablo 2, Diablo 3, and Diablo 4. Ooh. The Art of Diablo is already available for pre-order on Amazon, although the description does not mention Diablo 4 anywhere. With a set release date of November the 3rd, the day after BlizzCon, it seems that Blizzard could announce Diablo 4 and its inclusion in the art book at the convention. This is not the first we have heard of Diablo 4, with Blizzard mentioning more Diablo products in the pipeline at last year's BlizzCon. Kotaku also reported that Diablo 4 has been in production at Blizzard for years, recently rebooted in 2016. Diablo 4 seems to be a lock for BlizzCon 2019, although it is possible the ad is incorrect. Either way, fans have only to wait a few more weeks if the rumors are true. BlizzCon 2019 will take place November 1st through the 2nd in Anaheim, California. We will be in attendance, they say at Polygon, to cover a potential Diablo 4 announcement as well as any other new games Blizzard brings to the show. Reached for comment. Through an update, a Blizzard spokesperson said, "We don't comment on rumors or speculation, but next week we will have exciting news to share, so please stay tuned." And there you have it. What appears to be somewhat of a confirmation, in my opinion, from the Blizzard spokesperson. I think they're trying to generate as much hype as possible for Diablo 4, because right now, a very tumultuous time for Blizzard and Blizzard fans, because, of course, you have the Hearthstone situation going on right now with Blitzchung and the surrounding controversy of the Hong Kong protest that are completely engulfing any communication had about what's happening at Blizzard right now. But on top of that, you've also got people boycotting because of that. And so now you're going to have protest at the show, and then you have the negativity in the community surrounding Diablo Immortal that still has a bad taste in people's mouths after last year's BlizzCon. A lot to break down with this one, and I would hate to be on the public relations team right now at Blizzard. But with that being said, Diablo 4 is still going to be a very hotly anticipated game, and I think that, quite honestly, they will probably blow it out of the park with this, because they don't have another option. I think that after what's been going on recently over the past year, from the Blitzchung stuff until all the way to Diablo Immortal, you really do have one opportunity to kind of win people back. Of course, they've been killing it with World of Warcraft Classic, which was one of the biggest games of the year, even though it is just a remake of a game from the early 2000s, but still killing it nonetheless. And of course, World of Warcraft itself, the regular version of the game, still doing incredibly well. A lot going for Blizzard, but still, a Diablo 4 announcement with some pretty good gameplay would be much welcomed in the gaming community. But according to an art book ad in a German GameStar magazine, you could be seeing a big reveal coming at BlizzCon, which I thought was inevitable to begin with, but still, we have a nice non-confirmation, but also sort of kind of confirmation. However, The Witcher 3's Switch port has been among a string of Nintendo releases found in the UK charts, but not enough people to topple the mighty FIFA. It was a good week for Nintendo, as a string of new Switch releases made their presence known in the UK charts, though all of these titles ultimately failed to dislodge Electronic Arts FIFA 20 from the top slot, which it has now held for 4 weeks. CD Projekt Red's Switch port of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt debuted at number 4, followed up by the bendy wheel shenanigans of Ring Fit Adventure. Minecraft for Switch also returned to the top 10 at number 6, while Blizzard's Overwatch fell just outside at number 11. Oddly enough, the highest-selling Switch title this week was none of these releases, but 2017's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which revved back into the number 2 slot. The debuting Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville launched at number 7. While FIFA 20 maintains its place upon the throne, the likelihood is that this will all come to an end next week. October 25th sees the launch of Call of Duty Modern Warfare practically guaranteed to debut at number 1 and sit there for quite some time afterwards, such is the way of the winter charts. And so again, from top to bottom, FIFA 20, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint hanging in at number 3 for the physical sales. Then The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition on the Nintendo Switch, followed by Ring Fit Adventure at number 5, Minecraft Switch Edition at 6, Plants vs. Zombies at 7, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening hanging in there at 8, Grand Theft Auto 5 still in there at number 9, and Borderlands 3 at number 10. And so, I think the big news here, in my opinion, is not necessarily that The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is on the charts at number 4 on the Nintendo Switch release, but that Ring Fit Adventure has hit number 5. That's crazy to me. I didn't know that there was that big of an audience for this game. I didn't think it would even chart, quite frankly enough, because you have it above stuff like Grand Theft Auto 5, Borderlands 3, which is still a relatively new game in the grand scheme of things, only a month out from its release. To see Ring Fit Adventure up there is pretty impressive, I will say. But nonetheless, I would go ahead and speculate that it will be knocked, if not out of the top 10, to the low top 10 next week because, again, Modern Warfare coming out. On top of that, The Outer Worlds, another huge release coming from Obsidian on the same day as Modern Warfare. And then you also have stuff like WWE 2K20, which I know charts from time to time. So we will see what the chart looks like next week. Without a doubt, going to look very much so different than this week's releases. But can it topple FIFA 20? Oh, absolutely. Modern Warfare is going to absolutely kill. Can't wait to see how good that game does. But with that being said, The Witcher 3's Switchboard is doing fairly well, but all of Nintendo's products seem to be killing it on the markets. However, maybe Days Gone's developer could be putting out a new game that could topple them all. Maybe it could be the best-selling game of all time. I was trying to make a transition. That's highly unlikely. But Days Gone's developer seems to enter pre-production on a brand new game. The studio behind Days Gone is apparently entering the pre-production stage on their next game, as suggested in a LinkedIn update spotted by DualShockers. Sony Ben's lighting lead, Jeremy Vickery, updated his LinkedIn work experience to include his time spent working on Days Gone, and within that description confirmed that the studio's next game has reached a pre-development stage. Vickery, who has also worked as assistant art director at Ubisoft and lighting artist at Naughty Dog, said he is now involved in pre-production planning for our next title. Unfortunately, no indication was given as to what the next project might be, so we were left to speculate about whether it could be a sequel to 2019's Days Gone or something entirely new. Though, considering how early Sony Ben's new project is in its development, we can say with near certainty that it will wind up releasing on the PlayStation 5. If Sony Ben is indeed working on a Days Gone sequel, it is safe to say there is room for improvement. While reviews were largely mixed, there are some common themes when it comes to its flaws, and of course, Leon Hurley over there at Games Radar did have a couple of things to say if you wanted to check out his review. But hopefully we will get an official announcement and trailer for this intriguing project from the studio behind one of 2019's most polarizing games, especially now that the cat is out of the bag with regards to its development. Those are some big hopes because there is no chance of getting any kind of trailer or news about this game for at least, I would say, 2 years. But that's just my 2 cents on that one. So again, the pre-production title here, the headline, if you will, of this article says it all. This game is in the planning stage. There is nothing really to say about it as of right now. The big question will be, is it going to be a Days Gone sequel? Quite frankly, I think it will, because the game sold incredibly well. I think it blew everybody's expectations out of the water, including my own. And so there is really no reason to not create a sequel for Days Gone. It's a genuinely good game. It's one that I still need to dive into, but after hours and hours of watching it and seeing just how big the game itself is, I think it's one of the more underrated titles of 2019. Yes, it has its issues. Yes, it had its bugs whenever it first launched, but the way the game played, the enemy types, the way that it really did throw you into this world of Oregon and really show you what it could do. Very good title here from Ben that was in development for a very long time. So we will see just how soon they pump out a brand new game. But apparently Ben is working on a brand new title that could be a sequel to Days Gone, but will inevitably launch on the next generation of consoles. Maybe on the Xbox One. No, I'm just kidding. But if you do have a game you want to play on the Xbox One, you can play it with the Xbox One controller, as you would expect. But if you have a game you want to play, not pray, I mean, you could pray, I guess, if you want, on Project Scarlet, you could also use the Xbox One controller as well. That's right. You can use the Xbox One controllers on the next generation. As an underreported detail out of E3 was Xbox head Phil Spencer mentioning that Project Scarlet would be compatible across generations. Backwards compatibility is expected as an extension of the system that's already in place, stretching out back to original Xbox games. But it's also going to include Xbox One controllers and accessories. Recently, Xbox product and marketing manager James Shields reconfirmed that every Xbox One controller will work on the next-gen Xbox. It doesn't matter if it was a launch model controller or one of the newer ones with Bluetooth support or even a fancy schmancy Elite. If it worked on the Xbox One, it will work on Project Scarlet. Back at E3, Spencer explained that this decision is Xbox respecting the purchases gamers have made on our platform. This makes sense as Xbox tries to blur the lines between generations and the lines between Xbox and PC, but it also lowers the barriers for buying Project Scarlet. Investing in the next generation is a little easier when you know you won't be gouged for the add-on accessories. And so, this is good news for those that, number one, have bought the Elite controller, which is pictured here, or even the Elite Series 2, which has come out, or is coming out in the next couple of weeks. But specifically, this is lowering the cost of entry for getting into the next generation, which I think is going to be imperative for winning people over. Needless to say, controllers can be very expensive. I believe they generally hover between $50 and $60, assuming they aren't on sale. With the higher-end controllers, such as the Elite controllers, you could be spending as much as $150 or $160 on a controller. And so that's a big investment for a lot of people, especially for those that might be a little bit tight on cash. And so to be able to say, hey, all of your Xbox One controllers work from the day one edition with the Xbox One in 2013 all the way to the newest controller that comes out, by all means, they all work. And of course, this is good as well because of the Xbox Design Lab, which allow people to design their own controllers with new color schemes, with new stenciling, stuff like that. That really does add value, and a lasting value at that, to the controllers people have already purchased. But maybe you want to take one of those controllers and play one of the brand new THQ Nordic games that is going to be coming out of Japan. Because THQ Nordic has announced a significant expansion into a crucial Eastern market. The company has officially incorporated THQ Nordic Japan KK, which will be based in Tokyo. This new arm of the business will be responsible for handling PR, marketing, and distribution for both THQ Nordic and Handy Games titles in the region. This is only the second international distribution outlet the publisher has formed, having previously opened THQ Nordic Incorporated, its US-based distributor, in 2012. The team is being led by Managing Director Yuji Kato, Manager Junko Kato, and Head of Project Management Hiroshi Agawa. I nailed all those names. Give me a round of applause, please. THQ Nordic has made a name for itself over the past few years with an ongoing series of significant acquisitions, with recent examples including Darksiders developer Gunfire Games and racing specialist Milestone Interactive. Earlier this year, the publisher raised $225 million for further acquisitions. And again, this company continues to blow my mind. THQ Nordic, THQ itself, I should say, was dead in the water. Whenever I thought about THQ, I thought about MX versus ATV. That's all that came to mind. Now with THQ Nordic, they're pretty much a global powerhouse of AA games. Not quite AAA games, not quite the low-based indie games, just kind of right in the middle there, like Darksiders. That's pretty much the main baseline that I think of when I think about THQ Nordic. But they are killing it right now. To expand to Japan is a big move, because that is a huge market that you could corner for distribution, and I think that shows exactly how big they're planning to go for the next generation. But good to see. Glad to see THQ Nordic continuing to expand, because quite frankly, when it comes to the big AAA games, they tend to be so clean-cut and so concise. But with THQ Nordic, you still get some jank in there. You get some soul. I like that. I respect that. I like THQ Nordic for that reason. But maybe you want to play some games on the Nintendo Switch and you're a big fan of the GameCube. There's a GameCube-style Joy-Con out now. The GameCube controller was a contentious beast back in the day, but love for it has grown considerably since its release. Not only are fans tracking down those relics of remotes for games like Super Smash Bros., but hardware manufacturers are also replicating its style hand over fist in an effort to meet an undying market of GameCube fans. It looks like the hardware company Sadie's managed to do just that, as they have released a new GameCube-inspired set of Switch Joy-Con. It's $60 for the pair, which will run you $10 over the normal asking price of a box of Joy-Con, which is already high for a first-party product. It has the same features as a normal remote, including NFC for amiibo and gyro support, as well as micro USB cables for charging, but it can also charge as normal on the dock, HD rumble and an IR camera on the right. Enjoy. on the right Joy-Con are no-goes. This is basically a vanity purchase if you already love the GameCube aesthetic, but a nice option to have on a growing list of Joy-Con customization options. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Switch Joy-Con remotes. And I will say, they look pretty good as GameCube controllers. Personally, I would have loved to see the purple aesthetic. I feel like the GameCube purple really does pop a little bit better than the traditional black. But with that being said, the one thing I want to know is the C-stick on here. Just how well will that work with the octagonal style of the, circle that is on the controller itself? Whenever you have a regular Joy-Con, I don't believe there are notches. I could be incorrect about that, but I feel like I remember it being a pretty smooth, fluid motion. This could change things drastically in the big way. But if you are playing mainly Super Smash Bros., this is pretty much the go-to way to play Super Smash Bros. Now, because you have that classic feel of the GameCube controller, albeit a bit different. You still have that same layout as you know from the past. But with that being said, that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed this one, drop me a like down below. And if you do want to subscribe, you can find the show on YouTube. You can find it on a podcast feed of your choosing. It's uploaded every single weekday, Monday through Friday, if you did want to stay up to date and informed. But until tomorrow, you guys have a phenomenal rest of your day. I will talk to you soon, and peace.